Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Let's talk about Venus. Venus ingressing into Leo is actually what I want to talk about. And so if I just edit this chart slightly, just to show us when she went into Leo, which is pretty much here. So 12th of August, which of course was the Lion's Gate. And sadly, as most of you are aware, there's been quite a few losses, which comes down to Ceres in Leo, Venus in Leo. I just get the sense that we're going to see perhaps a little bit more of this. And I'm referring to Olivia Newton-John, and also a lady, an actress called Anne Hershey. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her surname correctly, who just passed literally on the 12th of August as well. And she was pretty young. She was only in her 50s, 52, 53, around there. So, and if we looked at both Olivia's chart, Olivia Newton-John, who's an icon for Australia particularly, even though she wasn't born in Australia, but she spent a long time here. Her legacy that she's left behind is pretty extraordinary, and I'm going to come back and actually just do a video on her chart, her life, her legacy, and that would take a fair bit of time to put together. And I would like to devote some special time to that. It's funny I use those words, devote, because she's got a beautiful song called Hopelessly Devoted to You, and she's got Venus in Leo, which is all about being special. And that's really the theme, with Venus in Leo. There's a lot of themes actually, but the theme of specialness is something that comes up very significantly with Venus in Leo. So this Venus in Leo, which is picking up the Ceres in Leo transit, I was thinking that when Ceres first ingressed into Leo, that we are likely to see the loss of some well-known celebrity or royalty type of person. So I wasn't surprised that, because we've actually had, as far as I know thus far, there's three females actually, Olivia Newton-John, Anne Hershey, or Hesh, and I've just forgotten the other one's name. She's an Australian musician who also passed away. They've all passed away within days of each other, more or less, right? And all big losses, all creative people in the arts, music, cinema, movies, films, etc. Some people, don't like it when astrologers focus on celebrities, and I can appreciate that, because someone made a comment on my Facebook page saying, why do we have to look at celebrities when something happens to understand the astrology? And the most obvious answer to that is simply that, well, they are people who are known to the world to an extent. And so for that reason, we tend to have knowledge of their life story, their biography, their journey relative to what's been documented. So it's always extremely useful to look at the chart and see, what's been going on, what is going on, what's been activated, because that's how we learn astrology. It's by observation and correlation, always, So it's just very convenient to use the charts of celebrities, and that's one of the primary reasons most astrologers do use them. And secondly, we also have some, as individuals astrologers, we have some people that we admire, certain musicians or artists or whomever. Could be an athlete, could be anybody, it doesn't matter who it is. But I think when we feel a particular connection with a person who's famous, for instance, it's always very interesting to explore their chart, whether you're just looking at their natal chart, whether you're looking at what's going on in their life at the moment, if there's something, critical taking place or a big event taking place, or when they've transcended, for instance. And when Olivia Newton-John transcended, I was personally really affected by that, and I know millions of people were. So I know it's not just me, but I'm just speaking about how I felt. I was hit pretty hard. It really hurt, actually. And a lot of that has got to do with just my own connection to her music, having grown up with being influenced by the films she's played in and music, and because I'm a big lover of the disco era, grew up with that music with my dad, who loved that music as well, and she had a hand in that genre, disco music, which I just absolutely love, always will. And so, her passing just triggered and activated a lot of fond memories, actually, of myself and my dad and my brothers, and growing up, and music and dancing, and because that was just always going on in our lives. Music and dance was just there all the time. So even though these artists are human beings, we project a lot of our own, ideals and desires and fantasies, whatever it may be. They produce an album or music, or there's something about their energy, their style, that reaches into our own sense of creative expression. And that's a really good word here for Venus in Leo. Venus in Leo is just unbelievable when it comes to creative self-expression. Jeffrey Wolf Green says that the Venus in Leo individual, he says a lot of things, but one thing he says is that they have this inner canvas. It's like a blank canvas, and they are so aware of that, consciously aware. It's not an unconscious thing, it's quite a conscious thing. And they are so driven to create out of that canvas, to self-actualize, because Leo is the sign of self-actualization. And what does that mean, self-actualization? Well, it's to be so aware of your own self and fully project, right, and create from that inner canvas anything that you want to create about yourself, about your creative expressions, right? And when we say creative expressions, it doesn't necessarily, again, always have to point to, becoming a famous artist or a famous musician or whatever. We all have an element of creativity within us, some more than others, clearly. But just the fact that you express yourself, that's a creative, that's creativity, expressing yourself, which is the 5th house Leo, which is another reason why the 5th house corresponds to children, giving birth to children, because creating a child is a creative form. It's a creative expression into life, isn't it? It's the ultimate creative expression, really. So we ourselves hold that space within us relative to our ability to express ourselves. And Venus in Leo really reminds us of that particular journey, of that particular experience. But of course, when you're looking at any transit, and of course, Venus in Leo, she's only going to be there, for a couple of weeks, so it's not a super long time. But sometimes, a couple of weeks of a dose of Venus and a dose of Jupiter can be quite uplifting. And I say that because Venus is going to form a trine to Jupiter. And even though that trine is only going to be in play for a few days, it can still be a good few days where you feel just happier, basically. Venus rules happiness, Jupiter rules joy. These are the two benefic planets in astrology, and they are transiting in fire signs: Aries, Jupiter in Aries, Venus in Leo, and they are forming a trine to each other. Trine aspect, which is 120 degrees, is the same element. So fire to fire. Leo is fire, Aries is fire. That's 120 degrees distance. It's called a trine aspect. And trines are an interesting aspect. Sometimes they're a little bit underrated, and sometimes they're a little bit misunderstood as well. They are a powerful aspect. But the problem with trines sometimes, and that would really be reflected through the nature of the individual overall, trines can make us lazy, basically, just totally self-indulgent and lazy, that's why throwing a square in, having, a few squares in your chart, or throwing a square in here with Venus's transit through Leo, which she will actually pick up a square to Uranus. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, if you throw a square in, it just creates that edge that sometimes we need to basically get off our butt and get moving. But let's just rewind and go back to Venus, Jupiter, and even further back, just Venus in Leo. So Venus, the goddess of love, I don't want to confuse, when I say that, I don't want to confuse that. I mean, it is the love of romance, especially in Leo. But at a deeper level, Venus is the pure essence of love that streams right into Neptune, her higher octave, which is the ultimate expression of unconditional love, Neptune, which is the source to all things. So Venus is the direct channel for Neptune. And so Venus transiting through any sign always has that capacity and ability to show love, to express love from that deeper space, as reflected through the archetype she's moving through. She stimulates the energy of that archetype, and that archetype is expressed through Venus. And in Leo, again, at a personality, perhaps more superficial, perhaps more mundane level, there's a few things there. There's obviously the creative, expressive side of Leo, which is not necessarily superficial. It can be brilliant. It's brilliance, actually, when it's operating at a very conscious, healthy level, out of its own narcissistic tendencies, because Venus in Leo does have tendencies of being extremely narcissistic, and very well aware of it too. Venus in Aries can be narcissistic. Fire signs basically connect to narcissism. Narcissistic, am I saying it correctly? I said it 3 different ways. Fire signs are the ones that can connect to that, right? And in Aries, it's totally unconscious, not aware. If the narcissism is there with Venus in Aries, they're just not aware of it. Aries is a very unconscious sign. It's instinctual. It's the first sign of the zodiac. The baby has no awareness of others yet. But in Leo, It's a full sort of full bloom, full developmental stage of the personality, because the whole zodiac describes the persona, personality as it develops from Aries right through around the zodiac to the end, which is Pisces. And in Leo, it's completely aware of its sense of confidence, its abilities, very intense focus on its creative potential, expressions, abilities. It has, it knows what it can do. It's very capable and knows how good it is at what it does. And when it sort of Venus in Leo, when it puts itself in the focus of wanting to create something, the focus is very intense, and they just know that they are very capable of creating. And sometimes what can happen there is that the Venus in Leo, when it's operating with its shadow sort of components, which would mean then that it gets into that narcissistic sort of level, there's two things about that. One thing is that if it's not getting the validation from others around it, it can, that narcissistic sort of level of it can become more amplified, because Venus in Leo does, even though they are so confident in themselves, they do need that external validation, you know, by their partner, by their peers, by those around them. They need to be sort of told that they're special and they're great at what they do. And when they don't get that, there can be sort of a dramatic kind of, you know, melodrama kind of dramatic sort of reaction to situations, you know. Leo, it's very dramatic. It's the heart. It's like, oh, I feel really hurt. How could you not see how special I am, how amazing I am at what I can create here? And they are amazing at what they can create. That's the thing. But that's that external validation that they seek and need is what can become the problem. And that can be in personal relationships and friendships, because Venus corresponds to our friendships as well, not just our personal intimate relationships. So there's quite a few layers to Venus in Leo. And I don't want to go into that too much more, because then I'll be just doing a whole session on what it means to have Venus in Leo. And I sort of want to focus on this from the point of view of, yes, some understanding, put some context of what Venus in Leo illuminates for us. And illumination is a good word as well, because the heart illuminates. It illuminates anything that it focuses itself on. You know, anything it touches, anything it connects to, there's a sense of illumination. There's a sense of fulfillment. There's a sense of openness, you know, and Venus is happiness. So there's a sense of an illuminated heart that feels a sense of happiness when Venus is in Leo, right? And let me just show us when she picks up that trine to, so this is as of the 12th of August, and today is actually the 16th. So anyway, let me just animate the chart. So I'll bring it up to the 16th, which is today, and Jupiter and Venus they've already started their journey in this trine aspect. I would say they started on the, well, pretty much when Venus got into Leo. You know, it's 8 degrees, and those who are really fanatical about their orbs, they'll say, no, that's too far. That's fine. Either or, it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's an applying aspect, okay? Venus is applying to Jupiter. She's going to perfect her trine to Jupiter relatively quickly, so it wouldn't not be so that her energy is picking up that Jupiter energy from the moment she gets into Leo, because of the distance between them is not that far at all. So that's fortunate for all of us, really, because it's two benefics, as I said, in fire signs. Fire inspires, in spirit, fire. Fire motivates, it encourages, it has confidence, it is ready to take action to, let's go and get this done. Let's go and do this. Let's have some fun. Let's whatever, right? Whatever it is that you enjoy. With a sense of enthusiasm. Jupiter is that sense of feeling enthusiastic about life, about anything, about how you feel inside you. So this aspect, which is active for a few days, and let's just see when it becomes exact. It's pretty much, well, I'd have to alter that by a few hours, but let's just say that, it's there till about the 19th of August. I would say it's probably even beyond that. Well, in terms of perfecting, it's somewhere earlier in the day of the 19th of August, but even here, when Venus has reached 10 degrees of Leo, she's still trine Jupiter. And as you can see, she's building up to the conjunction to Ceres. And this is where I think we might just see more of perhaps another loss with a famous person, and I would say female because it's Venus. I hope I'm wrong, but it's there's every chance that will unfold. And obviously I don't know who it is because I'm not clairvoyant. I'm very intuitive, and I can work with people or look at their chart or look at a person and use some sort of clairvoyancy in my own way, but that's when I'm with a person, sitting with a person, etc., etc. But I'm just, at this point in time, I'm just pointing to two transiting bodies coming together, two symbols, Venus, Ceres in Leo. Leo will be the component of it that speaks to somebody famous, an artist, a musician, an actor, a royal person, for instance. Of course, Ceres points to the loss and grief. And as a matter of fact, I'll just show you. This is Olivia Newton-John's chart, and there is a rectified time, but I've just forgotten to put it in. I think it's about 6:18, but never mind. This is close enough. And what I'm just about to highlight doesn't really matter that much. So what I'm looking at is she's got Ceres in Leo and Pluto and Venus in Leo. So she would have just been, she stepped into what was about to be her Venus return. And she was also having a Ceres return as well, which is quite interesting. I see Ceres returns being prominent when there's a death that occurs. Doesn't necessarily have to be your own death, right? There's no one, I think, that could have, said, for instance, Olivia Newton-John is coming up to a Ceres return, she's going to die. That is absurd, right? We would never say that. But the point being that in retrospect, when we look back, we can see that, yeah, she was having a Ceres return, a Venus return. And there were a lot of things going on. A lot of things were activated in her chart. But as I said, I'll come back and talk about that on a separate video. But I just wanted to show you that very interesting little stellium. When you do whole sign houses, all this goes into the 12th. Saturn will go into the 1st. This Sun, Neptune, etc. will move into the 3rd. Everything sort of jumps around. Not everything, but most things kind of jump around. And that Venus-Pluto series going into the 12th is extremely interesting because about 20 years ago, she was in a relationship with somebody who mysteriously disappeared. That's very Venus, Pluto, Ceres, literally. Anyway, that's just a side note. Going back to our transits for the moment. So, from about 12th of August right through till about 20th of August, you could say. So about a week's time, we can really make the most of this Jupiter trine Venus. It's two benefics in signs that they do well in, right? Fire, as I said, which inspires and encourages. There's confidence there. There's enthusiasm. There's drive, passion, and that can be experienced, integrated, or projected in a number of different ways. It just depends who you are, what's going on in your life, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not, whether you are, interacting socially quite a bit, and for those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, it's likely more to be the case regarding social activity because it's still summer. It's still freezing where I am, so there's not much going on here. Well, in my life anyway, I'm just pretty much home all the time. So I will be focusing on this energy on an inner level as opposed to on an external level. But some of the other good things characterized by Venus trine Jupiter, it can be a good time for traveling, social activities. It can be a good time for some financial type situations as well. Again, you would never go and invest, $50,000 into something you didn't know anything about just because there was a Venus trine Jupiter. That would be pretty absurd, really. Whatever you invest in, I suppose you need to know what you're investing into and why. And if it's a monetary thing, physical, external thing, then we certainly do need to do our homework, right, about that organization, everything about it to our best capability. And what the Jupiter trine Venus might reflect is if we've done all that homework and we've done whatever we've needed to do, that just might be a really good timer, right, to inject something into that project that you've been looking into, exploring, etc. So I don't focus too much on the money side of things in life, in astrology. That's why I rarely talk about it, because it's not what drives me and motivates me. But occasionally I'll make a few comments because I understand for some people it is a drive, it is a motivation, it is something that they focus on and want and so forth, and that's fine. There's nothing good or bad about that. There's nothing good or bad about anything, actually. But in any case, Venus trine Jupiter can be quite a beneficial time financially as well. There would be other things that you perhaps would need to consider, not just that alone. As we move forward, and then I'm going to wrap this up because I really just wanted to come on and just talk for about 10-15 minutes because I haven't been feeling very well since this full moon. It's really, it's been a very difficult full moon for me personally, and it, lined up with the Olivia thing departing and, triggered my own grief about my dad and just life, right? So and it's winter and it's freezing and Saturn's still hammering my chart, and it's been extremely challenging. So I'm hoping that this Venus Jupiter injects some of that that juice into me as well, which it will, because I'm in Aries, so Jupiter's in Aries. I've got some Leo in my chart that's prominent as well, so Venus is going to swing by all of that. So I do feel confident and hopeful that it will pick my mood and my energy up a bit, because it's been hammered quite a lot of late, not just since the full moon, way before that, but that full moon was an extra dose of challenges, let's say. So yeah, so for about a week's time, we can integrate with that Venus Jupiter. If we're not in a personal relationship, we can use it for our own personal creativity. Furthermore, this is what I was trying to get at before, the Venus in Leo, whilst it's all that happiness, creative stuff, socializing, fun, going out with your girlfriends or your mates or whatever it is you do. Just one thing about Venus Jupiter, there can be an overindulgence in food, shopping, things like that. It's not unusual. In fact, it's very typical. And sometimes if we if we're feeling a lack in certain things in our life, and shopping can be a remedy for some people. It's a therapy for some people. It's not really a therapy, but it can feel like that. And then you can sometimes go overboard with that, and going overboard would be Jupiter. Venus is all the things that please us, so if you've got an eye for fashion, for that sort of stuff, Venus trine Jupiter in Aries and Leo, it's going over the top, really going over, because Venus in Leo, she's the queen. She's got to radiate. She's got to show her crown jewels, and so that can show up in a lot of different ways. So I guess we just need to be somewhat cautious, not restrained, because that's Saturn, and we've kind of had enough of that Saturn restraining bullshit going on, because it's been going on for ages, since it formed its conjunction to Pluto a couple of years ago, and we're still early days, about that that particular conjunction, Saturn Pluto, because look at how far apart they are. They're only not even one sign exactly apart yet, but getting there. So it's still in the what we call the new phase, right, relative to their conjunction. So there's just a lot of stuff going on that we're unable to see the results of at this point in time relative to Pluto and Saturn. A lot of energy though, a lot of energy, but Saturn always restrains. It's just who he is. If you're feeling like you've got a straight jacket on you, that's Saturn. That's what Saturn does. So Venus Jupiter, we can kind of invest in that energy and get a sense of upliftment, even if it's just for about a week, just to lift us out of a lull period, a down period, whatever it may be. I've certainly been feeling all of that, so I know many others have too. So let's see what Venus and Jupiter produce. I have tremendous faith and hope in this transit, actually. But again, as I said, it's only there for about a week, and we do need to read it in the context of the bigger picture of everything else that's going on in our chart. If you've got really serious, heavy transits by the transpersonal planets, including Chiron, it's Venus trine Jupiter is not going to lift all that up, and suddenly you're just going to feel elated and everything's just disappeared. No, that's just being delusional. But we can have a dose of a few days where we just feel better. And sometimes, if you're going through a really shit time, a really difficult time, a day here and a day there, and a few hours here and a few hours there, of feeling more yourself, right? Feeling more uplifted and feeling, less harshness of whatever is going on. Well, that's a good thing, right? That's always a good thing, because we need that balance anyway. It can't just be all hard, and it can't just be all so-called good all the time. We need that balance, right? So let's see, when does Venus get to? Yeah, so by the 23rd of August is an exact Venus Ceres conjunction. This is not really the most pleasant signature, let's be honest. It is Ceres. And as I've said before, many times over, Ceres points to loss, grief, death. It does fundamentally post whatever shows up relative to that context, produce, let's say, the potential for renewal, regeneration, and transformation. But that's not always an easy passage for people to access, because if you go through a process, a passage where you've lost someone or something, you know, the process of grief is very complicated, extremely complicated, and very different for each person, and very different perhaps even for the connection, you know, to a person or a pet for that matter. You know, sometimes people will go through a process of grief that might be a couple of years, it might be a year, it might be 6 months. Sometimes people can hold that grief forever. So it just depends, right, on the person and how significant the loss is or was, right? So yeah, I'm not really fond of that Ceres Venus. That could be a major activation point in someone's chart, and that will not be easy. I'm not going to color it into something that it's not, because Ceres is just a very difficult archetype. So yeah, I guess perhaps if there was a positive takeaway about that, it would be perhaps a recognition of needing to really nurture happiness and love towards your own heart. Happiness, Venus, and heart, Leo. And Venus and Ceres coming up together can really perhaps trigger the awareness of that theme in your life. You know, a lady wrote underneath one of my videos, and I completely empathize with her. Just recently, she said something like, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of, you know, sort of nurturing and fostering this self-love and still waiting for my beloved to show up, you know. And I can completely empathize with that, and it can be tiring, and it can be frustrating, and it can be lonely sometimes, and all those things. But we can't change it by being pissed off at it or angry at it. That's not going to change it. So we just have to keep working on that self-love. We really have to keep working on that, because it does promise to lead us into a greater sense of peace and fulfillment within ourselves. And the truth of the matter is, when we do really feel that, a genuine, authentic alignment to that within ourselves, we don't really need somebody to come into our life to bring that to us. We really don't. And if it comes, we welcome it, you know, and suddenly we have this experience where it's, you know, fairly sort of equal, if you like, you know, because we've done that work on ourselves, and we're not having these huge expectations of a partner or, you know, the soulmate to appear to make us feel whole, as it were, right? I know some people might think, yeah, well, I've heard all that before, and I'm still alone, and I've been working on myself for so long, but I still don't feel, you know, completely happy. And I get that. I empathize with that greatly. But I still think we just still need to just keep working on ourselves, you know. And so anyway, this Venus series can perhaps really highlight, activate, trigger perhaps some of those themes that we are either suppressing, in denial of, or just need to be reminded of, you know, in a greater way during that time. That would be kind of like the best takeaway with the series Venus. The worst takeaway, I'll be perfectly blunt and honest, would be the loss of a relationship, you know, and that could be because two people separate, or that could be because one person departs this world. That's, you know, that's just what these signatures can point to as well. So that's why it's not easy. Okay, so if we move forward at this point, which is the 27th of August, just before the new moon, which I will come back to talk about that, Venus forms a square to Uranus. Let's just go back here though. 25th of August, she forms a square to the nodes. So she's picking up the journey of what the South Node, North Node, South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Taurus has been pointing us to. And this is quite important because Venus is the ruler of the North Node. So the whole time actually that Venus transits through the zodiac, whilst the North Node is in Taurus, she's always going to be the ruler of that North Node, right? And so it sort of seems to me then that her journey through the zodiac at this point in time of collective evolution is huge, because she's the ruler of that North Node, meaning the direction we are working towards collectively with the North Node in Taurus, which is a lot of different things. But one thing it is to establish a greater sense of peace on Earth, a greater sense of being reunited with Gaia, Mother Earth, our body, you know, getting moving back more into our body, because with the world of technology, and I've said this before, and it's so damn obvious, we've been taken so much out of our center. You know, I mean, it's convenient, it's fabulous, it's great, it's entertaining, it's useful, it's a lot of different things, technology. But one thing it is, in no uncertain terms, is a complete distraction from our source and center. And we can get so out of balance with that. So this North Node in Taurus is a big deal around those sorts of things, and around peace and balance and harmony and beauty and nature. Taurus, nature, the earth, as opposed to all the superficial bullshit that's been created ongoing for a very long time now. So Venus picking up the square here, this is pretty important because, you know, through the rest of the zodiac, she's a square's a very dynamic aspect, right? So there's quite a bit of tension there that can be activated when Venus is squaring the nodes. And again, that can also be speaking to past obsessions and attachments we have, Scorpio. The pull between that and learning how to just relax more, Taurus, get more grounded, be a little bit more down to earth, Taurus. So the square from Venus to these nodes will be picking up perhaps some of those tensions. And on the 27th, she's forming the square to Uranus. Now that sometimes that can be, you know, an exciting love affair that you just manifest somehow, some way. You can be in a relationship when that happens too, by the way, because Venus in Leo, you know, she's very flirtatious. She can be in a relationship, but she can walk into a room and flirt with everyone in the room, and she'll light up that whole room. You know, everyone will know when the Venus in Leo walks in. They have this captivating charisma about them. And the flirtation generally is quite harmless, but to the partner, it might not feel that way, right? So anyway, that's a whole other level. It's a whole other thing. In either way, Venus in Leo is, very flirtatious and very charismatic. So, yeah, that's right. Venus square Uranus, exciting love affair. The desire to create some excitement in your existing relationship. It can also be pissing your partner off, like deliberately creating, some sort of conflict, because that there's an energy there that's become stagnant, that's quite stuck, and there's just nothing exciting going on. And so unconsciously, one person will create some tension, square Venus, square Uranus, to bring a sense of some sort of freedom or some sense of exhilaration, even if it's just to confront the other person about something that's just been suppressed, denied, or blocked, for a few months or a few weeks or a few days or whatever it is. It can just be, wanting to be completely wild and free in your in your love affairs, in your relationships, in your creative self-expression, in your social activities. It could be just doing some really unusual things that you normally wouldn't do, things that give you a sense of excitement, that make you feel fucking alive, basically, right? Venus Uranus is a very excitable sort of energy, but it's not stable. So for the people who are more stable, based oriented, earth signs, Saturn, Capricorn, etc., this energy is not particularly comfortable, nor is it necessarily always invited in. It's usually suppressed. But anyway, it's up to us how we work with this energy. So then, just to kind of finish up, a couple of days later, Venus opposes Saturn. And it's very close to the square to Uranus, obviously, because Saturn and Uranus have been squaring each other for nearly 2 years or more, and they're still within range. So obviously, when we get one planet squaring one, we're going to get that planet a little while later forming an opposition to the other. And so perhaps within that context as well, it's difficult to distinguish and separate, perhaps from a timing perspective, because the timing is so close. Look at Venus opposite Saturn is 28th, and Venus square Uranus was, I think, on the 27th, so day apart. So that's an interesting situation there, because you're going from one extreme to the other, Uranus versus Saturn. Well, I guess that the thing though about these transits, especially Venus squaring Uranus and Venus opposite Saturn, they literally are only there for about a day. Sometimes people might feel them for about 2, maybe 3 days, right? But generally it's only there for about a day or so. So there's not a lot that can, sometimes there's not a lot that can happen in one day that can be, so life-changing. But if there's been an accumulative sort of effect, of things building up, then this Venus squaring Uranus and Venus opposite Saturn, it will be the catalyst to just create that necessary explosion. Venus square Uranus, excitement, a tremendous sense for freedom, and Venus opposite Saturn is often separation. If it's not separation, it can also be a sense of, because it is an opposition which speaks to illumination, seeing full moon. That's what an opposition is. It's a full moon. It's that energy. So Venus opposite Saturn might just, for some, be that ability to see just more clearly in their own relationship, the matters that are important in their relationship, and just being able to have just a much more clearer perspective on where they are in that relationship, and or if they wish to continue in that relationship, or how much they have grown in that relationship, because Saturn is growth. Saturn is difficult, but it's also growth, powerful growth, but through growing pains, as they call them. It's a pain in the ass, but it's a growing pain in the ass. So anyway, those are the features of Venus transiting through Leo, and I just can't help thinking and wondering as well. Next year, when Venus goes retrograde in Leo, which occurs on the, I think it's the 13th of August, 2023. Before then, that's the Venus star point, the morning star. But before that, this year, we're going to have the ingress of the Venus star point into Libra. That's a separate thing, but I'm just flagging this. The Leo Venus star point next year is square Uranus, in the same way that Venus is square Uranus here. So my sense is that whatever kind of happens at this time, through this window, so around the, let's say, 26th to 30th of August or thereabouts, is perhaps a prelude for something much, much more significant, and for a longer period of time. So let me just start that again. The energy of this Venus-Uranus square is a prelude to something more significant that's going to take place with the Venus retrograde in Leo next year. So just have a think about that, because that could be really important for you, especially if you've got Venus in Leo. I think there's something in that, and I think we will see. We will see as it unfolds, and of course I'm going to be talking about Venus retrograde in Leo next year sometime, so there's heaps to say about that. But I just wanted to note and to bring to people's attention that this square from Uranus is a prelude to something much bigger coming next year. Okay, I'm out of here. So I hope this information was useful, and I will see you guys very soon with the new moon in Virgo. Looking forward to sharing some insights about that. Sending you all much love, and I just forgot to say, I've gone to say it twice, and then I've just gone on a different path. But anyway, perhaps this is a good way to close. Venus in Leo, I've kind of touched on it, but Venus in Leo, I feel that we can really just really tap into that lion heart, that real beautiful, creative stream of energy, Leo, at the deepest level from within our heart, and that, again, that can be expressed in numerous ways. It's not about the fact that it will express in certain ways is important, yes, but I think what's primary is the way in which we connect to that energy inside our own heart space, where it hasn't connected to anything or anyone yet, but just for us ourselves to nurture and go into that heart space and realize how special our own heart is, because it is, all of us. And sometimes we need to hear that, we need to be reminded of that. Often we forget that. And I think that's an important space to work with. Well, Venus is in Leo. Venus is love. Leo is the heart. Pretty obvious, right? Okay. See you guys soon. Bye.